All right, let's get some analysis now on what could have happened in this case. And we speak to Institute for Security Studies researcher and training coordinator Willem Els. Mr. Els, good evening to you, and thank you very much for your time. On the police's version, the accused policemen, they are saying this was a case of mistaken identity. Should we take them at their word?
Good evening to you. Yes, it's an unfolding case, and we have very limited information at the moment, but we believe that that is the reply from the police, or that is how it was reported. But we should understand that every time that a police officer actually uses a firearm in the line of duty, then it is the duty of IPID to investigate. So yes, IPID took the case and they investigated it, and we saw that the policeman handed themselves over today, and they were brought before court.
Initially, when we reported this story, in fact, I think we were the channel to break it, we were told by Mr. Ngcobo that what saved his life was that his car is an armored vehicle. In other words, it is bulletproof. And the manner in which that car was sprayed with bullets, he is absolutely lucky to be alive or having escaped with his life, given the fact that the car he was driving in was absolutely sprayed with bullets, is the word we are using here. Is this a very serious matter?
It is, of course, a very serious matter. Every incident with a shooting incident where the police and the public is involved is serious. And if we look at the evidence that was shown on television and in the newspapers of the photos of the vehicle, it is evident that quite a few rounds or shots have been fired at the vehicle. And yes, if it were not a armored vehicle, the outcome might have been different.
We had an opportunity to question the KwaZulu-Natal Commissioner, Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi. I'd like for you to just take a listen for a moment before we continue the conversation.
I can confirm that, yes, indeed, it was the police officer, there were police officers that they had a shooting incident together with Mr. Ngcobo. When he called me, even myself, I was not aware of that incident. So when he called me, the only thing I could think of immediately is to get him in a place of safety while I was mobilizing backup in order to protect him. That's why the police arrived there in the flesh to make sure that he's safe, because we have a constant responsibility to make sure that he is safe. Later, it discovered that it's police officers that were involved with that incident. For that reason, that we felt it is then an opportune period that we must not investigate that case as the police in order to make sure that there's no biasness. So that case that was registered but was transferred to the Independent Police Investigative Directorate for them to have an independent investigation on a matter that involves a police officer. Yeah. However, we internally as law enforcement, as police, we instituting disciplinary steps in order to investigate, to find out exactly whether did these members do wrong, and if so, to what extent and what type of corrective measures that must be done on them if there is any need for that.
So having listened to that, that is quite an admission from the police commissioner himself, talking about the involvement, well, perhaps we should say the alleged involvement, because I guess up until matters are proved and finalized in court, it is an allegation for now. But on the face of it, when you hear the commissioner talking in this way, because part of what saved this man's life was the instructions that he was following from the police commissioner himself, who directed him to go to a particular mall for safety, whilst he called for backup, in other words, other police officers, in order to try and protect him. Is this likely to be a slam dunk case?
Well, once again, just to answer that question, strong leadership demonstrated by the provincial commissioner, once again, and decisive, that might have saved the life of this individual, where he took decisive actions and advice, and he intervened decisively in order to save the matter. Yes, we should not see that as an admission from the police. We know that everyone is innocent until proven guilty, so we have to give that benefit to them. But we must also remember that it's been just over a month that this case has been investigated. And it was discussed, and it seems that it is prosecution-led investigations, as the National Prosecution Authority actually instructed the investigating officers that they must effect an arrest, and that is just an indication to us that based on the evidence on the investigation, that the National Prosecution Authority believe that they got a prima facie case to go ahead against these police officials.
Final question to you. This is now in general terms, not specifically relating to this matter. The police spokesperson in KwaZulu-Natal says over 100 police officers are going through the criminal justice system at the moment for various crimes. Again, we go back to that initial point that these police officers are saying this was a case of mistaken identity. Could there have been another motive here?
Well, colleague, in the first place, it's tremendous responsibility that is placed on the shoulders of every police officer in carrying a firearm, and they are very well trained in order to use the firearm, and also when they're supposed to use the firearm. We must also see that against the backdrop of course, the violent crimes that are prevalent in the country, and that makes the playing field a bit difficult. But of course, if it was a case of mistaken identity, these officials had certain protocols to follow to ensure that they're actually targeting the right suspect, but also that they follow due procedure, because there are standing operating procedures within the police service whenever you may use your firearm, and also they are guided by our Criminal Procedure Act.
You're springing up another question now in my head as you make this comment that police have got to follow a standard operating procedure, and at least based on what we have been, what we have learned in the media, covering cases where police officers get into trouble with the law in the manner in which they conducted themselves, a police officer can only shoot at a suspect if they feel that their lives are threatened. In this instance, they were the ones shooting at this vehicle. How does that work? Were these police officers completely wrong?
Well, as I said in the beginning, we don't have a lot of information at hand. But what you said is right. The law is very, very specific when it says that when their lives are being threatened, or also someone else's life has been threatened, and also for the protection of property and other people. So that is what the law says. But also their training is very specific on when and to use. But in this case, we don't know. We have the version of the complainant that he did nothing and he was just pulled over and they opened fire. We have to take that as a truth at the moment, because that is the only statement that has been made. We see that the police officers have not submitted a statement as yet. So this is a developing case, and I think they will get to the truth of it at the end of the day. And if the policeman did not follow due procedures and they committed a crime, then like all the others that you just mentioned, they will be brought to court and they will have to face the music. We must just understand that whenever a police officer is using a firearm, I've been there myself many times, you have to make decisions in a split second sometimes on whether to use or not to use the firearm that take a court sometimes years to make, to decide whether you made the right decision. So it's a very difficult position that the police are in, but they are well trained, and that is what they are there to do, and that's their function. And so that is why also we have IPID, to be in that oversight position to actually ensure that the police officers don't overreach when they are using their firearms.
Willem Els, thank you very much for your time and analysis of this matter. A very interesting case indeed. Willem Els is from the Institute for Security Studies, a researcher and training coordinator.